Mr. Harnais.
Good morning.
At this point, I'd like to read a letter dated September 9th, 2020, addressed to the Governor's Council. Dear Councilors, I'm pleased to nominate the following person to the position of Associate Justice of the District Court Circuit. The nominee is Robert W. Harnais of Braintree, Massachusetts. Sincerely, Charles D. Baker, Governor. At this point, I know you have some distinguished folks who are here. So before we hear from you, we will hear from them. And the first one is my good friend, Judge Stephen Aveney.
Thank
You can sit right here, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's been 15 years since I was here. My name, as you said, is Steve Aveney. I was an assistant clerk in the Quincy District Court for 26 years. And then I was demoted to District Court Judge, where I served for 15 years as the first justice in the Haverhill District Court. I am very pleased to be here on behalf of my friend Robert Harnais. We go back 30 to 40 years. When I worked with Bob in the Quincy District Court, he was known as a hard worker, a responsible worker, an ethical worker. Let me say this about the District Court. In the District Court, I have a saying, there are no secrets. They're like little villages. Everybody knows everybody's business. Bless you.
Thank you.
And there was never even a hint of any type of misbehavior on behalf of Bob. In fact, quite the opposite. He was a very popular and well-liked employee. After we worked together in the Quincy District Court, Bob, as you know, became an attorney, and he returned to the Quincy Court on a number of occasions to hear cases, try cases, I should say. And I had some clerk's hearings with him. He was always well prepared. Many times we'd have to go look up the law together to make sure we were on point. And he did a great job for his clients. Again, I interacted with Bob a lot when he was president of MAHA, the Massachusetts Association of Hispanic Attorneys. One of my favorite memories is going to the convocation, the meeting established by MAHA for all the national Hispanic attorney groups in the country. And I think that was at the Fenway Park. And it was a testament to Bob's leadership that he was able to congregate all the Hispanic attorney associations from the entire country. It was quite a thing. It's a testament to his leadership skills. I, as a judge in the district court, would be gratified, would be so pleased to have Bob as a colleague. I know his temperament. I know his intellect, and I know, quite frankly, I know his kindness and his compassion, which I think he'll bring to the bench. I urge you all to confirm him as an Associate Justice of the District Court.
Thank you very much. Councilor Kennedy.
Judge, it's great to see you here. You missed. I hope you're on the list to come back.
Thank you.
We need you. No question about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Next,
you.
we'll hear from Attorney Kerry.
Let me just make one last statement before I leave. I'm going to embarrass Mr. Kennedy, but you probably know this. When Judge Lee Johnson was ill right before he died, Mr. Kennedy showed the utmost kindness to Judge Johnson, particularly a hanging of his portrait in the Malden District Court. He's a very humble guy. I'm being sarcastic. But the kindness that he showed Judge Johnson in his last days is really remarkable.
Thank you very much. If anyone knows, thank you. If anyone knows Councilor Kennedy, he's a very humble, very compassionate man. That's why we all love him on council. Next, we'll hear from Attorney Kerry Devlin. And before I hear from you, you can sit down. To my left is Councilor Marilyn Petito Devaney.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Carrie Devlin, and I am here today to speak on behalf of Bob Harnais and his nomination as Associate Justice of the District Court. I first met Bob almost 20 years ago when I started working at the Norfolk Sheriff's Office in Dedham. Bob was one of the first people amongst many who made me feel welcome and accepted. He was friendly and personable and was kind enough to offer his full assistance. About 5 years later, I started working with Bob in the legal department. Although Bob and I had been co-workers for a few years, it wasn't until I started to work directly with him that I got to know him better, both professionally as well as on a personal level. Once we started to work together, it was obvious to me that Bob loves his job. He thoroughly enjoys the work that he does and has an unequivocal respect for the law. In his role as the sheriff's legal counsel, he has at times had to make difficult decisions. He does so by being fair and firm when necessary, because he knows that the decision he makes can have a big impact on a person's life. Over the years, Bob has taught me a lot about my role as a paralegal and has given me the skills, support, and feedback needed to assure that I am doing my job successfully. But more importantly, by example, he has amplified the importance of what I was taught as a child: to be unbiased, to be compassionate, to treat everyone the same, and to treat them the way you want to be treated, no matter what their current circumstances may be. I have heard more than one time the story of how badly Bob wanted to be a lawyer, how he hung around the courthouse as a college student to watch the attorneys and view the court operations. Finally, one day a court employee questioned him as to why he was always hanging around. When Bob explained his desire to be an attorney, he offered Bob the opportunity to be a volunteer. I believe that court employee did a world of good, not only for Bob, but for the scores of people who have benefited from Bob as their attorney, as well as the young attorneys and aspiring law students Bob has mentored. Bob has been a good friend to me, someone I know I can trust, who is patient and kind, who I know I can depend on to be there if needed. He listens without judgment and is always willing to help. He has no problem telling me if he thinks I am wrong, but he is always supportive. The only thing Bob loves more than practicing law is his family. He beams with pride when he talks of Leslie and their children and now grandchildren. His family means the world to him. When his kids were young, there was nothing he enjoyed more than attending their school functions, watching them play sports, taking them on road trips, or cooking them a special meal. Balancing his career and family is something Bob has mastered. He never lets his family, friends, or clients down. Like many of us growing up, Bob did not have it easy. His parents emigrated from Argentina with little, and he has worked hard for everything he has. He had a vision, made a plan, paid his own way through college and law school, and achieved what he set out to do. Part of Bob's vision is also one day to be a judge. In my opinion, Bob would be an excellent judge. He is knowledgeable and experienced, and also compassionate and unbiased. He has the necessary skills, trait, temperament, and sound judgment I believe a good judge should have. It is my sincere hope that you agree with me and appoint Bob as an Associate Justice of the District Court. Thank you for your time and allowing me to speak on behalf of Bob. It's an honor to do so.
Thank you very much for those remarks. Thank you. And before we hear from the nominee, I just want to let everyone know there was an anonymous letter sent a few weeks back through the governor's office. They acted on it expeditiously. They contacted the state police, did an inquiry. They talked to several people, and those allegations were proved baseless. There was no merit to them. So I just wanted to put that out. At this point, we will hear from you.
Excuse me, Councilor Iannelle. I was told about that report and I talked to the deputy attorney yesterday. She said she would give it to me yesterday. I still haven't got it. So I just want to put that in the record.
Yeah.
I don't have the police
Yeah,
report.
let me just respond to that. The councilors, I don't have the report either. The councilors will be getting that report, okay? And it should be sometime this morning. Before we hear from you, if there's anyone you would like to introduce, you can do that now.
Just present here is my wife, Leslie.
Good morning. How are you? Good. At this point, we'll hear from you. You can give us a brief statement as to your background and why you think you'd be a good addition to the district court.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning. I'd like to start off by thanking the Governor's Council for allowing me the opportunity to sit here today. It's an honor and a privilege. I would also like to thank Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Polito for considering my application, as well as having the confidence in me to nominate me to the position of Associate District Court Justice. The confidence the Governor and Lieutenant Governor have showed me by this nomination is very humbling, and I commit to them in this council that if approved, I will make you all proud. Getting everything ready to be able to appear here took a lot of effort by others. So I have to thank Lauren Green for her patience, her commitment, and her help getting through all this. I would also like to thank two individuals that spoke on my behalf, Judge Aveney and Kerry Devlin. They've both they've known me for many, many years now. I'd like to tell this council a little about myself. I'm a first generation. My parents both coming from Argentina and Spanish being my first language. I'm the first lawyer in my family, and how I got to be a lawyer, it's a strange story. It's all because of a movie. I watched the movie and I knew at that point that I wanted to be a lawyer. I started sitting around Quincy Court, as Kerry told you, and people helped me there. I first started by volunteering in the clerk's office. I volunteered in the clerk's office for approximately a year, going to UMass Boston in the morning, volunteering in the courtroom in the afternoon, and working as a cook at nighttime. That's where I met Judge Aveney. Through this volunteering with Judge Aveney's assistance, I got to meet many lawyers and learn how the clerk's office functions. It was a great opportunity to listen and learn. Steve and the other employees of the clerk's office took me under their wing and helped me reach my goal to become a lawyer. While working in the clerk's office, I met many other individuals, especially one named Larry Falvey. Through Larry, I got to work in the probation department. While working in the probation department, I got to run a lot of different programs. Again, a very educational thing for a person who's trying to be a lawyer. I first worked in a program called Juvenile Intensive Probation, where I saw juveniles every single day, whether at school or at home at nighttime. I would have to monitor them. It's called being a surveillance officer. I also worked with the Earn It program, where I took out community service crews in the afternoons and Saturdays for them to perform community service in order to pay off their fines. After a year of doing that, I was given a caseload by Andy Klein to supervise people. It was during that time that I was given an opportunity to work on a pilot program, first one in the state, called the electronic bracelet. Quincy District Court was the first court to state agency to run such a program, and I was lucky enough to be given the opportunity to help run it. In fact, I had to wear it for 2 weeks to learn how to use it. Working full-time in the probation department allowed me to attend the Union School of Law at nights. Upon graduating law school and working full-time, I studied for the bar. I passed the bar exam that I took on July 25th, 1990, as well as the 26th, as a 2-day exam. Obviously, we all know that. Why I know this date is on the very first day of the bar exam, the 25th, my daughter was born. My wife was in the hospital having the baby, and I was taking the exam. So she was born at 3:57. To this day, she takes credit for me passing the exam. For the last 30 years, I've had a diverse practice. I have represented clients in juvenile court, district court, superior court, federal court, and criminal matters. I've handled in the district court, which is, I consider my home. I've handled landlord tenant cases on both sides. I've handled civil matters, plaintiffs and counsel, plaintiff for the counsel and defendants counsel. I've tried many care and protection cases. I've represented plaintiffs in class actions, hourly and wage matters in federal court. I've also been a special prosecutor in Worcester County District Attorney's Office. I've also represented the House Correction for the last 22 years, working as a contract general counsel while I ran my own practice. I did it all while dealing fairly and honestly with my clients, court staff, judges, and opposing counsel. When I think about the universe of the matters that are within the district court's jurisdiction, I believe my experiences, as well as my temperament, make me suited for the job. If confirmed, I will bring my experience, intelligent, hard work, and love for the job with me every day. And I'd approach the responsibility to the people of this Commonwealth every day with no agenda and an open mind. See, I had a mentor that taught me that every day we go out there as lawyers. We are there to help people. We are there to work hard for clients. And in this case, the client would be the Commonwealth. And we're there to do the right thing. And for that, I thank my mentor, Peter Muse. I mentioned these names in my opening because I can't honestly sit here and say I did it all myself. If it wasn't for these people and others, I would never have the opportunity to sit here before you. They were mentors. And I found it my time at a certain point to give back. That's why I am the chairman of the Massasoit Community College. I've done that for a number of years. I'm also the vice chair of the Latino Advisory Commission. I believe district court judge has to know what it's like for people to need empathy and understanding, be able to give it. My own family struggled through the opioid epidemic that our society suffers from. And though it's taken its toll, happily I can say, we as a family fought through it, and we come out the other side. During our struggle, I learned a lot about what parents and families go through. That was the reason that with the help of the MBA, I started pro bono in Section 35 hotline for people that are suffering through that. I will tell you, just speaking off speech for a second, it's very traumatic for parents. I think we should have all been there, and that's what this program was about. See, I believe that a district court judge needs to have some scar tissue in their own lives so that he or she can try and understand the people that come before them. I can let this council know that I have the empathy, that I have the understanding, and that I have the scar tissue that I know will make me a very good district court judge. I'm a sum of all my parts, but the biggest part of me, as I sit here before you today, is my family. Though they could not be here with me physically today, other than my wife, I know they are watching. So I'd like to introduce you to them. I have a stepdaughter named Jackie, 35, who fought that battle, and she's on the other side. I have a daughter, Courtney, she's age 30. She's an emergency room nurse at the Boston Medical Center, BMC, and she knows, and she's seen it. I have a son-in-law, Matt Bayless, who sits there with her. My son, who's 25, a correction officer who will be leaving for the military in November. And my youngest son, Josh, 21, who will be graduating from Providence College this year. I also have 3 grandchildren. Jameson, 10 years old, who we have had custody of since he was a year old. Evie and Noah, Evie being 4, Noah being 2. They are my daughter Courtney's and Matt's kids. And then there's a person that's been with me for the last 33 years. The one that has shown me the strength when strength was needed, that has shown me determination when determination was needed, that has shown me humility when humility was needed, but more importantly has been there step by step, showing me her love all the time. It's Leslie. There isn't any way for me to adequately describe to you how I could never have imagined being here before you seeking your confirmation. And if confirmed, I not only be an honor and privilege to serve the district court and serve the people of the Commonwealth, but I will make the Governor's Council proud that they confirm my nomination. I commit to you that you will be proud. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members of the council. I look forward to any questions.
Thank you very much, Inez. I'm going to ask Councilor Marilyn Petito Devaney, but before I do that, I do want to introduce Councilor Miri Hurley and Eileen Duff, who are with us through Zoom.
Thank you.
At this point, we'll hear from Councilor Marilyn Petito Devaney.
Thank you, Counselor. First of all, thank you for all the time that you afforded me. I appreciate that. I did tell you my major concern with you. I never saw so many contributions in 21 years. That's something to be said, isn't it, huh? And you know what amazed me? You were so proud of it. You were so proud of it. You said you've been doing it for years, given to from Governor's Council to Governor. That's disturbing to me because if anyone knows my history, when I first was elected, I was really outraged that on the JNC, the Judicial Nominating, no, I'm sorry, our Governor's Council questionnaire, where we asked the nominee to list the last 3 years he or she and spouse has given political contributions. And at that time, that council, they were all getting contributions from the nominee right up until the hearing. And you might not know it, but about 40 years ago, Governor's Councils went to prison for selling judgeships. And so it really concerned me. So I went to Governor Romney and I said, I couldn't get this legislation through. I went before the House and Senate committee. I said, I want to prohibit judiciary nominees from giving political contributions to governor's counselors, governor, and lieutenant governor. And I said a year before they fill out their application. Well, I am very grateful to Governor Romney. He put it in his executive order, which you have to go by. You are mandated to follow those rules of a governor's executive order. And I'm very proud to say that that order that I put in, 23.3, has been included in all the governor's executive order, right up to Governor Baker. I'm very pleased about that. So that is a big concern of mine because these aren't small contributions. You gave $1,000 a pop. I asked you, how did you afford all this? How did you afford 3 pages? Unbelievable. But you know, you got around it because my order in the executive order said that you are prohibited from giving a contribution to governor's counselors, lieutenant governor, and governor upon your application. So that was in November. So your wife gave money after that date, which I don't think is really different than from coming your pocket. I mean, you must be aware that she's given $6,900 in political contributions, aren't you? You have to be, because you wrote it. I have it. So on February 25th, 2020, she gave $1,000 to Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito. Okay? When did you have your interview with the JNC?
I would say, I don't want to guess, I'm not quite sure. I believe it was sometime, maybe January.
January?
January, I really don't want to guess.
You're saying January because I'm having trouble hearing you. January. Okay. So after you had your interview, a month later, your wife gave $1,000 to Karen Polito. That's not the way I look at people. You know, you can be qualified, you can experience. I don't want anyone buying their way in. And that is so egregious. After you are interviewed, the executive order says that you can't give any political donations after. And there's another order that I didn't put in that says that. So I can't dismiss that. Because if I say that's okay, then everybody else can come in with 3 pages. What do you have to say about all your contributions?
That was over 30-year career. If you look at all the contributions I gave, you mentioned Lieutenant Governor, the governor. You forgot to mention all the city councilors. You forgot to mention all the state reps that have nothing to do with Lieutenant Governor and governor. I've given a lot of money across the board. Also, there is no list I can provide, but I would provide it for you, to all the nonprofits I've given money to. See, I grew up with nothing. I worked hard. That's how I got my money. And I do share. And I believe in giving to good causes. And as I indicated to you when we met, when I see somebody working on the opiate issue as hard as they do, I will more than give money. I will give time, I will give money, I will give every effort I can. And I will continue to do so.
I appreciate you doing that. But this is for Robert Harnais. That's who it's for you. Your wife doesn't give money after you have your interview. You don't give money after and when you apply. That is I can't dismiss that. I'm sorry. And I know there's people that talk about you that, you know, a friend of mine called about you and said good things about you. And, you know, we met for 4 hours and I appreciate that. And I told you that I don't take credence in anonymous letters, but I'll tell you something. I do my homework and I go through anonymous letters to make sure there isn't one single thing that could be possible, okay? And I was very satisfied after talking to you. I will not mention one of the things. I will have respect for you and your wife. I will not say that publicly. I'm not mean-spirited. And so I understand that. But, you know, I said to you, it's probably someone who wanted a judgeship and get it, and maybe they're jealous or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what someone's motivation is. But I want to tell you that there's no one more open-minded than I am up here. And so I respect you, and I will not ever disclose what we said at that diner. It's what's said in the diner stays at the diner. So, but again, you know, I appreciate, you know, your qualifications, but it's just, you know, disturbing. Now, in 2013, tell me about that. You applied for the district court, and the the Judicial Nominating Commission rejected you.
Yes, they did. They did.
Did you get an interview?
Yes, I did.
You did.
Yes.
Okay, and that was in this administration?
No.
No, it
I
was
don't believe it
Patrick?
was. Yes. I believe it was Patrick.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, in this process, when you're interviewed, how many of the 21 lawyers who have the awesome responsibility to recommend that person to the governor for a judgeship? Tell me how many of those 21.
I believe it was half. I thought they divided into two
Yeah.
groups. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
you know what? And I say it every single time. That is egregious. Do you know there was a past JNC chair, and he said to those 21 lawyers who had been appointed by the governor to interview and to choose someone to go before the council to vote. And you know what that chair said to those 21 members? If you don't attend the hearing, the JNC hearing for that nominee, you do not vote on that nominee. So you've got people, 10 people, 12 people that have never seen you, never talked to you, never called you, that vote on you. Okay? I can't do anything about it. Everybody thinks we have so much authority. The JNC has, and they're not doing their job. Okay? Because we see things here and we do our homework and we find out things. I don't know where the JNC is. I don't know how they ever investigate people or whatever. But, I think that, your background, yeah. But I do have one question. Are you still practicing law? Are you still practicing as an attorney?
As soon as I got nominated, I had to give up my clients.
Okay. Now, you have a case that's ongoing, that's pending for 5 years. Isn't that true?
What case?
You have a case. I'm not going to say it publicly here. 5 years, there's a case pending.
I'm not.
You're not familiar with that? I'm not going to publicly embarrass you, but I have gone,
5 years?
it's been going, yeah. But I'm not going to say it publicly. If you don't want to speak on it, then I won't either. But you are not presently you're not finishing any cases.
No, I've handed them all up.
Okay. So, all right, I'm not going to bring that up. I have that respect. So, I think it's, this is what I ran on. I didn't want people to buy their way anymore. And you did. And I'm sorry to be rude, but you did. 3 pages, 6,900 from your wife alone, and after you applied, which my order says after you apply, you're not able to give money. So she did. And she also broke one of the rules that says, not upon application, but the hearing. So, I think if you only could, you said to me when we met or now say, in retrospect, I was wrong. I shouldn't have given all those contributions, but you were proud. You told me you've been doing it for years. So I don't want to go into all of that. I think that I've said what I want, and I don't want you to be the poster boy for everybody coming in here and thinks if they can give us 3 pages of contributions that they'll buy a judgeship. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I do respect you. Thank you very much, Counselor.
Thank you very much. Counselor Terry Kennedy.
I don't have any questions because I've spent a lot of time with you over the last, since your nomination. We sat down for 2 hours one evening and talked on the phone a number of times. I've gotten a lot of letters in support of you and phone calls. Dan O'Malley, Kenny Halloran, Roland Hughes, who worked for me for 8 years. He's like family to me. It's part of the Hispanic Bar Association that you're part of, lawyer right down the street. It's a list that goes on and on and on. Michael Bellotti, Peter Bellotti, countless calls. They were getting annoying. But anyway, and I know you. I know what kind of person you are. I know what kind of lawyer you are. I only know you professionally. I haven't had any social events with you that I can think of. But you're a home run. There's nothing to talk about. And I just want to comment on that anonymous letter. I thought it was garbage from the beginning, okay? I threw it in the trash. It had bizarre stuff in it. It went off on a tangent. It looked like Ted Kaczynski wrote it. It was just bizarre. It was nonsense, and it carries zero, from day one, carried zero weight with me. I'm voting for you next week. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Counselor Eileen Duff? Laura, is she there? Counselor Eileen Duff?
Is she on Zoom?
Excuse me.
Okay, I can't see.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Okay, we'll try Counselor Miri Hurley.
Thank you. I had a little problem with my internet connection, so I was listening on the phone connection before I was able to get through on the video. And I heard the remarks, I heard your remarks, I heard the remarks of your, they don't call them secretaries anymore, executive assistant or whatever they're calling them these days. And I also had a lengthy talk with you prior to the time that the letter came out, and I called you back. And I am suspicious of any letter that's venomous, that basically goes unsigned, and in this case makes reference to murder cases that allege just crazy stuff that had nothing to do with you. It was the Stewart case, I believe. And so, but I do think that we absolutely had an obligation to have it investigated thoroughly by the state police. Your application on its merits is excellent. But I think that Councilor Devaney makes a good point in terms of the amount of the contributions. It was quite staggering. So would you like to comment about that?
I for the last 30 years, I've contributed money in many different ways. I've contributed money, again, as I said, nonprofits, but I contribute money to also political. That's our office. In our office, our law office, I'll have people come in, other lawyers come in and say, contribute, will you contribute? We're trying to raise money for this candidate, trying to raise money for that candidate. And I would provide the money and I would give money. My history goes back 30 years of giving money to political candidates, all the way from the mayors to the city councilors and all that. If this was any attempt to buy anything, it doesn't make sense. That means the theory is I started 30 years ago doing this. And I would submit to you that that's absolutely, though I understand the perception, and I'm not gonna, I told Councilor Devaney that I understand. That's what she's gonna discuss that with me, and I have no problem with that. But I've been doing, that's contributions. That averages out over 30 years, at approximately $2,800 a year. And if you look, they weren't all $1,000. Not at all. They're down at $50, $50, $100, $150. It ranges all the way up. There are $1,000. Yes, absolutely. But when you're talking about the lower races, it's lower money. It's candidates, city councils ask for $50 contributions, and I've been giving those. But again, that's 30 years. It's not all just in the last year or two. And I want someone to go look and see that it goes way back.
Thank you. I would also, I have a friend right here that's causing me a lot of noise. Just give me 1 second. I'll be right back to you.
Well, excuse me, Lauren, while she's doing whatever she has, do you know if Eileen is on? So why don't we hear from Eileen at this point, then we'll come back to Miri.
Good morning.
Good morning, Counselor. How are you?
I am well. Good to see the nominee. Actually, you know what? I can put my video on. Hang on. Here we go. Well, maybe I should have left it off. Anyway, good morning, Mr. Harnais.
Good morning.
Yeah, I also, got this anonymous letter, and I don't put much credence in letters that people won't put their names on. Some of it, frankly, is nonsensical. There was a whole segment on the governor's council that has nothing to do with the governor's council. But that said, there were serious allegations, but none of them, from what we've been able to ascertain, have proven true, which is, I suppose, a relief to everybody. So, but I do have to say, I do not have a problem with people giving political donations if they're politically involved people. We've seen it in the past. And I don't think you should be punished for that. However, I do have to say, and I would like you to explain it a little bit more, to Councilor Devaney's point, after you've been nominated, to have anybody in your family, particularly your spouse, make a significant donation to the administration, to me, shows very, very poor judgment. And I just want to know what you were thinking when you did that.
Well, my wife is present here today. I did not attend the camp. In fact, it wasn't her. She works with Representative Matt Moratori. She actually works with him on nursing homes and projects. He had a fundraiser that she attended. So, so it wasn't that we gave it straight to, or that she, I'm sorry, that she gave it straight to the Lieutenant Governor. It was a fundraiser run by the gentleman she works with, and she attended it. Though they don't work in the same building, she runs nursing homes, does the business manager for nursing homes. He also does the same thing. At one point, he was her boss. So he had a fundraiser that she attended and wrote a check. I was not there. In fact,
And I know you weren't there, and I understand that. I really, truly do. And I really, truly don't have a problem with people participating in the political process. We've seen people beat up for it before in the past. And I don't have I won't even go into all of what I think about that. But she wrote a check, and not a check for $50. She wrote a significant check. And we had another fella in here for another job who essentially had done the same thing. Said, well, I went to a fundraiser as a friend of a friend. I was supporting him, so I wrote a check. And I get that. And I applaud you for supporting your friends that having fundraisers for various people. But there's a check for $50, and there's a check for $500, and a check for $1,000. In what world? I guess I have to say, because this is the only thing I find really disturbing. In what world do you find that okay? Do you find that not suspect? I can't hear him.
can you hear me now?
Put the mic a little closer.
Can you hear me? I can understand the concern. But I ask you to look past that and look at my resume and look at everything I've done. That is what I'm seeking. I've been given money a long time, and I haven't sought this. So I'd ask, I understand the concern you have, and I respect the concern you have, but I'm going to ask you to look beyond that and look at what I've done and look at the work I've done and work I've performed. That's why I'm seeking this. I'm not seeking this because I don't even like mentioning what was said about buying. I have my reputation, my resume, the work I've done for the last 30 years should speak for that. And I understand your concern, but I ask you to please look at that. Look at my resume.
I will do that. And I agree with that. I've had many calls from people I respect a lot, saying exactly the same thing that the state police sorted out, and that most of us sorted out on our own, is that this stuff is just nonsense. You have a fine reputation as an attorney. You seem to be an honest and true guy. Your body of work does speak for itself, and you should be very, very proud of it. I mean, I have no problem with that at all. And I don't want to beat you up on this, but I do have to say, and I've brought this up to this administration in the past, and I'll bring it up again today. I don't know how we drill down into people that are applying to be judges. I personally, no one could buy me for $1,000. I mean, seriously, you could be, I think it's a joke. But maybe somebody could be bought for that amount of money. So it's not necessarily her or your donation. It's the cumulative effect of how many people have come before this council who have made significant donations in a consistent manner to this administration. And I think it's very disturbing. And I'm not saying they're buying their way in. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is it doesn't look good. It doesn't smell good. And there's no win for it. And I wouldn't want to be on that end of an investigation of how many people have been given money to the administration and then ending up in these jobs. It literally, I mean, I've only worked under 2 administrations, but this is beyond anything. And it's not just you. This is a cumulative effect. And I think that's why it's so disturbing to me is I literally can't understand in what world your wife could have thought this was an okay thing to do. I really can't. And you are not responsible for your wife's decisions. We all know that. We have witnessed many couples who are on different sides of different aisles. But it does, and I'm not going to go on about it anymore, but it does, it is disturbing. It's very disturbing. And it doesn't look good for you. So, so anyway, that's that. Tell me, what do you think? Let's talk about legal stuff now. What case do you think had the biggest impact on you that may, for you, if you go to the bench? What case shaped you or was different than you expected? And what about it? Can you share that with me?
I think the cases that have made the biggest impact on me are the ones that I didn't get paid for. I go back to when we first started practicing law, when a young woman came up to me and that she lost her children. DCF took them, DSS at the time took them away. And when they took the kids away, they said she suffered from Munchausen syndrome by proxy. And they took the child. And she missed the child's first birthday. And we went to a trial. And it turned out because the apnea machine the child was on would go off, set alarms, and she'd run to the hospital. The hospital thought, Children's Hospital thought that she was doing this on her own in order to get the attention. She lost the child for approximately 8 weeks at that time. We fought, we got an expert. The machine was faulty. She was educated. Nobody helped her. So she lost, that child, she missed the 1-year-old birthday of that child because nobody bothered to educate her as the machine was being faulty. Nobody looked at what the machine was being faulty, but because she did not have the education, she did not have the money, nobody helped her. That was one of my very first cases. And from that point on, I've done a lot of pro bono work for people that can't afford lawyers. See, we're there for this reason. We're there to help people.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always done that. I did get the pro bono award, the Bar Association, but I've always, those are the most meaningful to me. You know, I still have the card she gave me. She misspelled just about every other word, but I still have that because that meant more to me than getting paid. I have a drawer, my left-hand drawer on my desk is full of cards and people sending me thank you. Those mean so much more to me than writing a check to me. Why? Because they took that time and I got to help them. Those are the cases overall in my career that have meant the most to me.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to do that for people.
Great. Well, I think the pro bono work is probably the most fulfilling, that's for sure. I wanted to ask you also about this case with the high school hockey player. Can you explain that to me? That just seems like a very bizarre thing. I mean, hockey is a contact sport that half of the game, frankly, today is about hitting as hard as you can.
Yes.
And so someone made a, I'm curious. Well, you know, I was a high school and a college athlete. So, and I'm a very small person. And believe me, there were plenty of athletes that hit me hard. because they wanted to watch me go flying across the field. And sometimes I did, and sometimes I stepped aside and watched them fly across the field. But I'm very, very curious about that.
It was a hockey game between Situate and Duxbury. And actually what happened, a Situate player checked a Duxbury player right in front of the net. There was no penalty called, but the Duxbury player did receive a concussion. The parents were mad that number one, there wasn't a penalty called, and the parents were also mad and said he shouldn't have been hit that hard. So they brought criminal complaints out against my client, who was a Situate player. My concern with regards to that case wasn't the fact that, I'm sorry, strike that. I was concerned the child, there was a player that got concussion.
Yeah.
But if that went forward, that would have changed youth sports across the state. I've said it, and I've said it many times, if parents are gonna be doing that, then when you pay your fee for your child to play, you better have a lawyer on call. Because the parents are gonna start going forward to issue complaints against kids on issues of checks that no penalty was called, that nobody saw. You're gonna destroy your youth sports. And I've always said the worst thing about youth sports is the adults. And this is one of those cases that I thought would trigger, I mean, this was on ESPN, this was everywhere. And I thought it was, okay, if this went forward, if they pushed this case forward, at that point, it would have changed the face of youth sports. And parents would be filing complaints, seeking criminal action against other players for hitting their kid. And it was a very bizarre case. It should have never been there. It destroyed young kids' lives.
Yeah. Well, it sounds tragic. I agree. I coached youth sports for quite a while, and the reason I left coaching was because of the parents. It's just, it was astounding. So let me ask you this. Now, you've applied for the district court bench, which is, as we always say, the people's court. It's where you see basically everything. And as I've said many times, you are not just the judge, you're the priest and the rabbi and the social worker and the doctor and everything today, because we live in a different world, which is constantly and consistently changing, which makes the job of being a judge harder than ever, I think. And I applaud you for applying, because we need people who are bilingual. We need people who are smart. We need people who are competent and compassionate. And I think you have all of those qualities. But we also see, and we saw prophetically released just a week before Judge Gantz unfortunately left this earth, the study from Harvard showing that people of color are incarcerated at higher rates and for longer terms than Caucasians. And I find this so disturbing, and I've witnessed some of it personally. And I wanted to know your thoughts on that. Again, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. I think the study was accurate. I think it's something we have to look at. There is a big difference, I believe, with the way people are treated in certain courts. And I think if I should ever get affirmed and go forward, I'm going to be aware of that. I am aware of that. I president of the MAHA. I know what Latinos go through. I know people of color go through. And I know the treatment and the respect may not be the same. And that's something I'm going to keep an eye on. I have to keep an eye on it. This is something that's important to me. That's why I'm involved in Latino Advisory Commission. That's why I do these things. That's very important. And I did read the study, and I read a number of studies about it. They are concerning.
Well, one of the things that I find most disturbing is something that people aren't talking about. And that's the fact that the only district attorney who cooperated with the study providing information was Rachel Rollins. And there's a whole bunch of, probably a bunch of reasons for that. Some of it is because we're not tracking these things very well. But the fact that district attorneys, who I have great respect for, are not cooperating with these studies, to me indicates that they know that something's wrong, and they're not owning it, for lack of a better word. What do you think about the current movement for police reform and how that would affect the courts or your work if you so go to the bench?
Well, I think we have to look at the system as a whole. There are some issues there. I've known Rachel Rollins for many years, and I don't disagree with her actions. She is concerned. She brings valid concerns, and she's addressing them. Why do I feel about police reform? Well, there are things we have to look at. These incidents that happen, and I've said this before, you look at some of these incidents that have happened, we see it now because it's videotaped. You can only imagine what was happening before videotape existed. So it is concerning. We do have to look at that. We do have to revamp the way we've been doing things.
I understand that, but you didn't really tell me anything in that answer. You know what? And maybe because I left a broad, open-ended question.
Yeah.
Do you think funding should be redirected in some police departments?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think funding has to be redirected to education, to the communities. I think you have to.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. And funding also has to be put more into training, more funding into the training of police officers. I think, yes, you have to look at that.
Do you think police officers, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize.
You don't have to apologize. Do you think, when we look as citizens, and full disclosure, my brother-in-law was the chief of one of the biggest police departments in this country. So I'm not an anti-police person. These are members of my family. But I do think we need to be objective about it so we can also help the officers do their job better. This isn't just to whack people. This is to give them the tools. And that's what I think the refunding or the redirection of funds can do is let cops be cops and not social workers, and deal with some of the things that they're dealing with right now. However, I do have to say, every year, most communities in their local papers will print a thing of who the highest paid employees are. And without question, every single year, we see police officers, and in the state police, it's more egregious, making extraordinary amounts of money. I mean, extraordinary amounts of money in overtime, in detail, and we're one of the only states that does this. I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, do you think police should get paid extra money to direct traffic? Is that not part of their job?
To be fair, Counselor, and with all due respect, that's so far out of that's an opinion that isn't really involved in being a judgment. I think people work, they should get paid, but I think that's just so out of the range of what.
I know.
Let me just, if I could just interrupt 1 second. As the chairman, I always 100% let any councilor ask any question whatsoever. That's always the way I've been. If for some reason you don't know the answer or you're not sure, you can just say, I don't know. But I always let everyone ask anything, whether it's related to you, your judgeship or not. That's just the way I've always operated.
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry about that, Councilor.
I don't have a problem with somebody getting paid if they're working. I don't. It just.
Yeah.
Now, when you talk about details, I don't believe they get paid by the actual station themselves. Or I think private entities pay for details during work process while they're working on the streets and stuff.
Yeah. And to your point, it really, frankly, isn't terribly relevant. But so you do know, councils ask questions all the time about personal opinions on things, and usually it's how'd you vote on the marijuana issue, which I frankly don't think is relevant either. So I have no problem with that answer. It's just the reason I ask it honestly, attorney, is because we we are at a precipice in this country right now, and the gross inequity in people's incomes is amazing, beyond anything we've ever seen. We're fighting for a $15 an hour minimum wage, which is not a living wage. It's not anywhere near a living wage. But minimum wage is $7.25 in most of this country. So I don't think, the reason I ask it is I don't think you can sit on the bench unless this is part of your internal conversation with yourself and with your colleagues, because these issues impact. When you have a defendant in a courtroom who is struggling and is an officer there who's making 150,000, it's hard for people. It's really, really hard. And I'm not saying I disagree with you who's paying for it or not. But it's because of the inequities and because our police unions are so incredibly strong, and I'm a great union supporter, it has kind of it's hurt the offices in some ways that we're just seeing right now in Massachusetts. And I believe in the rule of law, and I believe in things will swing in and be fixed. But I also believe one of the reasons that offices today draw weapons as quickly as they do is because people have guns in ways that they never did before. And I think, your amygdala kicks in, and it's fight or flight, really. And I think we really need to talk about that a lot more than we do, is how the number of guns on the street is impacting our police force in a really negative way. And there's a whole bunch of other social issues around that I agree with as well. But I also think DA Rollins is spot on. And I found it astounding that other DAs, white men, would come out and publicly criticize her on some of her findings. And frankly, she's been right on almost everything. And when she's wrong, she admits it. She is also going out there and getting funding to do things on her own because she knows it needs to be done. And although I don't agree with her on everything, I do applaud her for her tenacity and her proactive status on this. I think being a DA is a difficult, challenging job. And by the way, DA Blodgett called me yesterday about you. He thinks very highly of you, and I've known John for a very, very long time. So his words are meaningful to me. I know you have some personal experience in your family with substance abuse, and you were very passionate talking to me about that. What is your experience, if any, dealing with people from disability communities?
As far as, and again, I apologize for asking you, you can just clarify. We mean people with disabled?
Yes, people
Oh.
physically or mentally disabled or are in the courtroom.
Yes. Well, first of all, I think it's just sad that the state doesn't have more places to put them in. Unfortunately, what happens is a lot of people with mental disabilities are reacting because they have no treatment and they're going into jails, and that's not the place for them. They need help. They need assistance.
I want to interrupt you for 1 second. I'm not talking about mental illness.
Oh.
I'm talking about people who may have Down syndrome. They may have Asperger's. They may be on the spectrum. People with that type of disability.
Well, in the beginning of my career, I was actually a guardian for many of them dealing with this. I've been a guardian for many handicapped people throughout my career, appointed to the courts. I've dealt with them. It's just, I think the court has to look at that and seek assistance from. Are they getting the treatment they need? No, I don't think they're being treated the way they should be. No, I don't. And I think it's something we have to look at. But I'll tell you, in the course of my career, I was a guardian for many people. Back in those days, Medfield Hospital was open, and I've had many guardianships through there for mentally ill. And so I've had my experience with that. I've also had family experience.
So if you have somebody, and again, I think we're talking about two different things.
Okay.
I'm talking about somebody, all right, I use this as an example many times. I had a sister with Down syndrome,
Yes.
who, if she came into your courtroom, you would know by her appearance, she had a mental disability. She had an issue. And she could be stubborn and she could be obstinate and there could be I'm not saying she probably never committed a crime, but what if she had? The judge would know by looking at her that she had a special need. I'm concerned about people that you don't know by looking at them that they have a special need. And their behavior may be what we consider inappropriate in a courtroom or in public. I know there's a television show right now, The Good Doctor, about a doctor with autism. And my question really is, have you dealt with folks in that realm? And this is not a trick question. I'm just curious because I think more and more we see folks like this coming into courtrooms. And my concern as somebody who's on the board of the ARC is that folks, they're not absolved for committing a crime if they have indeed committed it, but they are, there are things that you do need to know in speaking to them, in addressing them, in making sure they have proper counsel, making sure that their counsel understands some of these issues. So my question really is, have you had any experience with that community?
On a personal note, I have. Professionally, I haven't, but I will say that I would rely on the professionals at that time to assist me. I would rely on people around the courts, whether it's a psychiatrist in the court, to help me through that process and educate me on how to work with it. I'm not going in there knowing how to do everything.
Of course not.
My whole career has been to learn and listen and go from there. And that's what I would be doing. I can't tell you that I've had the professional experience. I have been a guardian, again, for people that have certain issues. And I've dealt with young people that suffer from all different. I was a coach for football, baseball, and basketball, and I've dealt with young people with Asperger's and stuff. I will tell you that in the court, I would rely on the professionals to assist me through it.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are special needs that need to be dealt with. And you're right. You don't absolve them, but you don't hurt them either.
Correct. My point is that we're held to a higher standard to keep them protected, but it does not absolve somebody if you've committed a crime. There's no, special dispensation for that. But incarcerating people like that, putting them in a holding cell, there's things that need to be considered and thought out for personal safety. And also, I find that the court officers are often a wonderful resource. And I do know, frankly, that our justices, our chief justices, are doing wonderful, wonderful work in offering, more education. Because this is part of what I'm saying is, this isn't the days of Mayberry RFD anymore, where it's just that simple. Things are more complex, and as a judge, you're going to be dealing with really complex things and things like this, and it's hard. It's not easy. It's hard work. I'm personally, I'm very personally offended when I see the press saying that judges and people who work in the court system are just good for nothings and living off the good of the land and everything. I find that very, very offensive, because I find that the judges and the people in the court system that I know probably 98.5% of them are some of the hardest working people I know and very dedicated to their work. And the truth of the matter is, Attorney Harnais, you could be making a heck of a lot of money with your background and your skills if you stayed in private practice. So I applaud you and others like you for stepping up for what is still an honorable career, and that is public service. So good for you for even putting your name in. My last question is another group. You know, I by nature go to support the underdog. Another group that I am very concerned with, which I'm a member of, is the LGBTQ, and there's a whole more initials now too, communities. And I think in district court you will encounter some of this. And these can be very challenging and difficult issues. Many people have someone in their family or close to them that's a member of the gay, lesbian, transsexual community today, but some don't, and you know, that's fine too. We have an epidemic in this country and in Massachusetts of young people who are gay, bi, transgender, they, whatever, whose families have rejected them and they don't feel safe at home. And many of them feel unsafe in a foster home, which is absolutely a tragic thing in the United States, that any child, and I don't care I don't care how old they are, they're children, feels unsafe. And what's happening is many of them are going and living on the streets. And as we know, that often leads to sex work, which can be tied into addiction. We have new outbreaks of HIV/AIDS in these communities of young people. We have an epidemic of young women who identify as lesbians becoming pregnant because they're working as sex workers. And it's very, very complicated. And it's hard for many people to understand. And I completely acknowledge that. But these are real things. And in the transgender community, I mean, that's a whole new thing for many of the judges to deal with. Complicated issues of not just understanding and compassion, but safety. And that's what I kind of drill down as well, is respect and safety. And so have you encountered any of these issues as an attorney? And if so, is there anything you feel comfortable sharing with us? And you're under no obligation to if you don't feel comfortable. I'm sorry, I can't hear him. I still can't hear him. There you
Oh,
are.
I can't fathom as a parent shunning my child away because of any issue. I just can't fathom that. As a parent, my priority is always in my kids. So when you talk about children being shunned because of the gay, lesbian, or trans, I can't fathom that, and I can't. And we need to be careful. It's something we have to address. It's during the course of the Section 35 program that I run, I've been called by many parents to go find their kids. And I'm actually driven. I can tell you probably most locations in Massachusetts where you can find a lot of drug activity because I've chased kids around there to help them. I'll tell you, yeah, that's a fair. We have to address those issues. You think about a young kid or a young child that's gay, lesbian, or trans, living on the streets. That has to be addressed. That can't happen. So as a father, I'm just telling you, I can't imagine shunning a child for anything. I just can't. And have I dealt with it professionally? No. Have I dealt with it personally where we would chase one of our kids around trying to find them to bring them home for their own safety? Yeah. Safety is paramount.
Yeah.
We have lost a generation of kids because of drugs and because of other activity. We can't do that. The court has to help. It's not just about punishment. You have to think outside the box. You have to help people. You know, I will say that if I was asked to be in Superior Court, Probate Court, Juvenile Court, I'm not interested. I'm interested in District Court. I want to deal with people. I've done it my whole life, and I'm going to keep doing it. If I get confirmed, it'd be tremendous for me. And if I don't, I'm still gonna work with people. That's how I was brought up, and that's what I'm gonna keep doing.
Well, I applaud you for that, and I think I think you're taking a very honorable path, and I couldn't agree more. I think children are our most valuable natural resource in this country, and the homelessness issue and the instability in homes dovetails into addiction incredibly, much deeper than I think many people understand. And it's really a national emergency. Homelessness, food inadequacy, insecurity, food insecurity, home insecurity, housing insecurity. These are national emergencies right now, and my fear is that they're going to, in the next year, uh, plus, going to be something that we've as a country never in modern times experienced. And I really thank you for applying and ask you to brace yourself with your family and your friends. And if you have a faith, whatever that is or means to you, and to use the resources that the chief justices offer, because I think our judges and I think our chief justices of our courts are doing remarkable work. And as I said before, and I'll say it again, it's easy to sling mud when we don't understand or agree with somebody's ruling. But you're human and you make mistakes at times. Maybe you don't. I know I have. And we hope that everyone doesn't, but I believe that the cream rises to the top, and most people try to do their very, very best. And you should, as you said earlier, be judged by your body of work, not by a few things that people want to throw mud at, which, someone's always, the higher you go, the more mud they want to throw at you. I mean, that's just the way it is. And clearly, if people are writing anonymous letters or tweeting anonymous things or with silly names and things like that, then you've probably done something right, because that's just unfortunately the world that we live in today. And anyway, I have no further questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Attorney Harnais, for your time. I greatly
Thank you,
appreciate
Thank
it.
you very much.
And I appreciate
Next,
the door.
thank you. Next, we'll hear from Counselor Miri Hurley.
Yes.
I have a new puppy, and my arranged puppy sitter couldn't get here 11 o'clock. So I'm looking at your application. And to the extent that you might have pages of contributions financially to political campaigns, you also have pages of what you've done in terms of contributions to activities and organizations that have shown a strong willingness to give of yourself, including being president of the Massachusetts Bar Association, going through all the other offices, and working group regarding jury waivers, domestic violence, co-chair of the Civility and Professionalism Task Force, a district court sentencing working group, Massachusetts Association of Hispanic Lawyers, National Hispanic Bar Association, New England Bar Association, of which you were president. I didn't even know there was a New England Bar Association president, and I've been a lawyer for God only knows how long, probably 40 years. Race and Ethnic Advisory Board for the Massachusetts Courts, a member, Trial Courts Domestic Violence Education Task Force, Section 35 Helpline, which you started, Norfolk Bar Association. You've been on the Criminal History Systems Board, Chairman of the Board of Trustees of Massasoit Community College, Governor Baker's Latino Advisory Committee, Roxbury Community College, Quincy College Advisory Board, Municipal Police Training Academy as a trainer, the Braintree Planning Board, the Quincy Planning Board. You know, it just goes on and on and on. You've been a high school student mentor. You've been making presentations to high schools about operating under the influence. You've written articles. You've done all kinds of things. And being a member of the planning board, I can tell you, is volunteering for having root canals. My background is always and has always been public service in one form or another, in addition to my practice of law. And so I know what it's like to have made lots of contributions to various political candidates. And I did that out of a commitment to have good people run that would do a good job in the office that they were running for. When I was appointed a judge, it was after I had been mayor and on the city council in Springfield for 14 years. When I became a judge, I jokingly said I was saving about $2,500 to $3,000 a year in political contributions. So I get that you've been with a firm that has a history of being involved in politics, not for any evil reason, but to try and support candidates to do good work. I do agree that your wife writing that check was just incredibly stupid. However, I had a candidate nominee from my neck of the woods who, his wife, unbeknownst to him, same kind of thing. Somebody called her, I'm having a fundraiser, can you send me a check? And obviously, he was never a contributor to the level that you were, but would make contributions here and there. So I think it comes with, in part, with practicing law, in terms of wanting to see good people as legislators and good people as local mayors and councilmen, etc. It goes without saying, the issues that have been raised here today, I think, were worthwhile. As I said, we talked after the letter had come out, and you know, he completely denied any of the truth of any of the allegations. But I think it had to be done, that a state police investigation was done. And it's a terrible thing where people can make blatantly false accusations, including the fact that I was anti-Semitic, when in fact I had been dating a Jewish fellow for 7 years and ended up marrying him. So, you know, it's, what do you say besides it's not true in some instances? So I thank you for your time, and I think most of the other questions that I had have been answered. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hurley. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before I recognize Councilor Juneville, I just want to make one brief statement. I disagree with most of my councilors on the issue of your wife's contributions. As I sit here, I think I have a wife and I have 4 kids. My daughter, one of them is a junior at Boston College. I have a daughter, a senior at Harvard. I have a son who's a lawyer in Frankfurt, Germany. And my other son is a businessman in Boston. We have spirited conversations all the time. I could never tell my kids to vote for this person or that person, or contribute to that person or that person. My people, my kids, My wife, and I assume like your lovely wife, is a strong, independent woman. She should be able to do what she wants to do. And for someone to say it's incredibly stupid, I take offense to that. Your wife has contributed to individuals who you never contributed to. Give me a break. Give me a break. She should be entitled to contribute and to support anyone she wants to. Again, I think of my 4 kids. We don't all vote for the same people. We don't all hold signs for the same people. And no one is upset at anyone. No one, I would never call my wife or my kids incredibly stupid. Give me a break. I have no problem whatsoever with the contributions that you made or your wife. That's your right. You and your wife want to support good people. You've done it for a long period of time. I don't know how long your wife has done it, but she has that right. And I wanted to say that, and at this point, we'll hear from Councilor Robert Juvenville.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, I had a tough time getting on the site, and I'm sorry about that. Sorry about being late for your opening statement to the nominee, who I've known for many, many years and have seen him in court over, how long you been practicing, Bob?
30 years. 30 years.
So I've known you as a lawyer in our court system, especially the Quincy area and Dedham and different courts throughout the Commonwealth. So I'm very, very familiar with you. I've seen you in court. I've seen you before judges many, many, many times. And I have no issue at all about your qualifications for this position. It's already been stated. It doesn't need to be said again about the letter and whatever. But I personally spoke to Andrew Klein, the chief probation officer, and we had a very long talk. He spoke to Judge Kramer, and both of them indicated that these things were baseless that was said in that letter. So, and both of those people, in my view, are people that I would be very, very surprised if they ever lied about anything in their entire life. It's just the way those two were. And you know them as well as I do. They just didn't do those things. So that was unfortunate, but I think it was handled correctly, and I think you'll be able to go on the bench and not have that dog you at all. So we met yesterday, and I had a lot of questions for you, which you answered. So because of my late arrival and the fact we have a meeting, I'm not going to prolong the meeting. I guess the issue on your donation was raised. But, you know, having been married for 25 years ago, I've been divorced for 25 too. I could never get my wife to do anything I told her to do anyway. So, you know, she's free to do what she wants, and unfortunately, it was raised, and that's okay. To me, it's not a deal breaker in any way, shape, or form. I don't think it distracts from your abilities to be a judge in one way or another at all. So I hope we can move on from that. But I'm fully supporting you. And again, I've known you so long. You're a very capable judge. And one thing that stands out with me is you have compassion and a great deal of common sense, which I think for a district court judge is worth everything else. I'd rather have that than somebody with a PhD from Harvard sitting on our benches. So you're a very compassionate human being. You've shown that all the years that I've known you. So it'll be my pleasure to vote for you next week. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Councilor Kennedy.
I already spoke, but I just wanted to reiterate what everybody else said. I think your wife has absolute right to donate whoever she wants to donate to. I don't think you would in any way, shape, or form have the right to tell her to do otherwise. I know I wouldn't do that with my wife. I'd be looking for a motel room to stay at that night if I tried. That's completely her right. So with respect to your other contributions, my list would probably look similar. As a practicing lawyer, We get hit up all the time for political contributions. And I'm happy to give them because I do support people in government, good people in government. So I just wanted to say that. I don't think your wife did anything wrong. I think she had the right to do that. I don't know if you even knew about it. I don't care if you knew about it because that was her issue, not yours.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll hear from Councilor Joseph Ferreira.
Thank you. I echo those sentiments. Good government costs money. And we all run big campaigns and we spend a lot of money to win. So I don't hold anyone liable for, I don't look negatively on anyone contributing to anyone. Your fan base is unbelievable. I've heard from so many people about what a great guy you are, including Arthur Tobin, Detective Lieutenant Ken Halloran, Jay Lynch from my office, Mike Bellotti, Joey Conley, Judge O'Malley. The list goes on and on. I could sit here for probably 10 minutes rattling off who else called me. I would just like to thank you for your service to the Commonwealth and to the entities you served. I was a police chief myself, so I understand like how difficult it is for you to work at the prison and deal with all the grievances and labor issues, and thank you for that stuff. I don't know where you found the time to be on all these committees. It's mind-boggling to me, but that's very gracious of you to give of your time and talents back to the community and back to lawyers. So you certainly have my support next week, and I think you'll be a great judge.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't have any questions. We had a lengthy conversation.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, we had several lengthy conversations. I got several letters, several calls, but I do want to acknowledge that Frank Bellotti, former Lieutenant Governor, Attorney General, he's doing great for people who want to know, who remember Frank. He's doing great.
He's still in better shape than all of us.
Yeah, he sure is. His son, Michael, called me, and obviously the letters we got. I think you're going to be a great addition to the district court. And when your name comes before us, I will put your name forward next week. And I think it's going to be a happy day for you and your family next
Thank you.
Wednesday. Thank you very much for
Thank you,
your
Mr.
time.
Chairman. Thank you, members of the board. Thank you.